pick and ban here to start off game number 1. Of course, as we said before, SKT versus ROX. You guys can see the lineups down at the bottom. We're going to start off with a Zyra ban here for SKT.
Yep, Zyra ban, and when we look at the red side where ROX is right now, I just expect the standard bans. So if you have not watched any of the previous games in LCK, you're probably going to be expecting to see LeBlanc, Camille, and Rengar. SKTelecom highlighting and banning away that Jace. That was a champion that Mickey did show a very good performance on.
Yeah, and as you expected, as everybody's expecting nowadays, you got to ban out the 3 OPs. Yep. LeBlanc, Camille, Rengar. We are going to see a Rise ban on the side of SKT, wanting to take away another mid-champion away from ROX Tigers.
Yep, another champion that Mickey played in his previous series. So a lot of focus coming out from SKTelecom to force Mickey to possibly play a certain champion that they want him to. And with the Rengar ban going through, you might end up seeing first pick Malzahar for SKTelecom. That has been a common trend so far in the LCK when Malz does get through the initial ban phase. And what this does mean is that Corki is still up, and we could see him be contested here in this pick ban phase.
Yeah, Corki, a champion that I've been liking to see a lot, does a ton of damage, can farm very safely with that Valkyrie and from range in the mid lane, and does mixed amount of damage, so it's hard to itemize against him, as we've said multiple times. So let's see what ROX wants to go with here for their first 2 picks.
And if they know that Corki's a possibility for Faker, you might want something like Syndra if you just want to get the mid lane champion out of the way, because additionally, Malzahar can be flexed. He is a champion that can be flexed into the mid lane, so you don't know if Faker's going to pick that up. And I don't want them to give away too much information here. I don't think that it's really necessary. You could just go with a support or a jungler pick here, especially with Zyra already being taken off the table. You could just pick MF. But it looks like they're highlighting Ashe, and what that's basically saying is that they don't want SKTelecom to pick Jhin, or they don't want them to pick Caitlyn, but that does mean that now Varus is a possibility for SKTelecom.
Yeah, Varus and Ashe, 2 of the most picked AD champions that we've had so far across the board for week 1 of League of Legends. You know, there was a nice graphic that was thrown out there. I saw, I think Jad may have retweeted it, with all the champions that were most played and their win ratios at the bottom of them. And Kha'Zix, speaking of which, is the most picked jungler so far with the highest win ratio.
Yes.
It's pretty incredible. He's up at like 80% win rate right now.
Yep. Kha'Zix is one of the best junglers in the current meta. And, you know, as you just mentioned, you're absolutely right. He does have one of the highest win rates. Well, he is the highest win rate. Technically, it's Nocturne, but he's only been picked once with 100% win rate. And now, with them picking Kha'Zix and Varus, yeah, I was about to suggest that ROX could just take their jungler here to not give away any more about their team composition. And it does look like they are highlighting that Elise.
Gonna go with the Elise instead of something like a Rek'Sai, which we've been seeing a lot, the Kha'Zix versus Rek'Sai matchup. We saw, actually, I think 3 times the last time we did cast on Sunday. But it's going to go with the Elise instead. And now we go into our second phase of banning. Of course, ROX does get to ban first. They're going to go with the Gangplank ban.
Gangplank, a champion that Huni played in the series on Sunday, might be signaling that the ROX Tigers might want to go with a Maokai pick. There is a lot of magic damage on SKTelecom's team composition. The Misfortune wisely banned away. You don't want to give up the Ashe MF. That would... Now, that does signal, I feel, that it is, in fact, a support Malzahar. So Wolf is going to be on that Malzahar once again. And the Tigers responding finally now with a Katarina ban, which I'm a little bit surprised of because they do have a lot of CC on their team composition, and it should be easy to lock down the Katarina. I don't feel like this would be a case where Faker would want to pick the Katarina here. I almost feel like Corki is bound to come now.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense, but... And we said it before, it's very hard to ban out Faker. There's so many picks that he can go for. We see Cass taken off the table here for SKT as well. So, with Syndra already picked, it's, you know, we're not going to be seeing any more picks away from the mid lane until we get to see what Faker wants to play. But let's take a look at what Sangyun wants to pick here for his team. And it is going to be Corki, perhaps.
They're hovering a cool... that's locked in. And that means that that's going to be a support Syndra.
Support Syndra?
Support Syndra. This is something I've heard rumors of. And I know that there is a Korean challenger that does play it on the ladder, but it's not something I would have expected to see here in competitive.
There's no chance of like a top Corki happening? That doesn't really make too much sense to you?
I don't believe a top Corki would have, because then you're just gutting his Valkyrie. He doesn't have any use for it or the package, unless you're going to use it as a roaming tool in between recalls. But even still, that seems very suspicious to me. I do feel like it will be a support Syndra. I could be wrong. And the other reason that I'm so surprised about that is because of the change to Syndra's W. She can't just spread out all the balls and hit multi-man stuns anymore.
And Wolf has not picked here. I'm not sure what's going on. The timer has finished. So I think this might just be a bug with our UI right now. Just stick with this, guys, while we get this fixed. But definitely a lot of thinking going into this pick, as maybe SKT was definitely looking towards that Corki pick. And they did have it taken away. We did have the Maokai come through for SKT as well, as you did mention, would be a high priority pick for them. Maokai also the most played top right now, if you do go ahead and look at that graphic.
Yep. And not quite sure what's happening with the pause of this champ select. But just looking at the team compositions right now, they lock in Maokai because there is a lot of magic damage on the ROX Tigers team composition, so you want to be able to itemize efficiently on that Maokai, and he'll just be a monster in the mid game, able to protect the Varus quite well. And for a final pick, it seems like
there was an error with the pick ban client. So now the referee is going into the booth there to see what they can do about fixing that, I guess discuss, because this has not happened yet before here at SPO TV. So not Whalmer, okay? And Whalmer's no. Anyway, enough about Pokemon. We're back here for League of Legends. And this is where we are going to begin. So Corki has not been picked. Are they going to pick Corki again? I suppose they have a chance here.
Maybe this is why the ROX Tigers were a little mad at starting at the last ban, is because now SKT is allowed to ban Corki if they want. Is that going to be...
Oh, that's true. That's interesting. I thought we were supposed to be starting from ROX's fourth pick. And that's what's highlighted here. Okay, they just skipped the ban.
Okay.
So the ban is just not counted. Okay. So I suppose that Cassiopeia can be picked.
Okay.
Cass was banned, right?
Cassiopeia was indeed banned, but that now would mean that she is able to be picked.
Which means that Faker could be playing Cass in this game.
Yeah.
It's another option to consider here. So the reason we have this delay is because just in the client, they're redoing all the picks once again. So they're going to be jumping into that shortly here, guys. But we are technically back into pick and ban. They're just forced to pick exactly and ban exactly as they did up until this point.
Yep. So we're just waiting for them to get to that stage. And I wonder what's going through Koma's head right now, knowing that ROX does want to go for that Corki. That's extremely difficult to prepare for. You can do 100, 200 mock pick bans and not have this ever come up. And so it's very awkward to try to respond to that on the spot.
You have to consider that throughout the entirety of that break, or rather the delay, SKT was given a ton of time to consider what they were going to be picking here. Yeah. So that, unfortunate as it is, that does favor SKT in this sense.
Something that you could do, regardless, is because the ROX Tigers team composition has a lot of magic damage, you can get the Maokai, but you could also put the Malzahar into mid lane and then just pick up Tahm Kench support, because the ROX team composition does have a lot of CC and single target.
Unbench the Kench. I'd like to see it, especially against our support Ashe pick.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's support Ashe, if it's support Syndra, I suppose Tahm Kench wouldn't be bad against either of those. We haven't seen too much Thresh being played. I like Thresh. It's one of those champions that can really put on a show, with some of the 200 IQ, as Reddit likes to call it, plays that some of the Thresh players do make with their hooks.
He's still good with the new cards of the Colossus. So there's always a possibility to see him, and we're just waiting for the pick and ban phase to recommence.
Okay, so I think we're going to be jumping into it very shortly here.
Oh, and the clock is back.
Yeah, timer's up. Let's see what he picks. I would assume it's Corki still. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
You were going to pick Corki. Corki's very strong. Okay, they do go for Corki. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Do they pick Maokai once again for SKT?
Well, SKT now not having to ban that cast, they might actually just go Maokai Cassiopeia here, now that they know that ROX is not interested in it.
Let's see if they actually pick it. Or are they going to go for the Manor build, pick something else, avoid that cast entirely?
See what the final pick is here. Oh, they're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No Manor here.
No Manor for SKT. They're winners. They don't care about Manor. Well, I mean, they're very Manored, obviously, but, you know, all jokes aside, going for the pick that they were allowed to. And Fiora being hovered here for ROX Tigers. Is it going to be the pick? Yes, it will be. So we got Fiora up in top, no doubt. And maybe it is as, well, you know, it's either Syndra support or Ashe support. We'll get a second, in just a second rather, we will be seeing what exactly it is.
I almost feel like this is guaranteed to be Syndra support. And the swaps have now just occurred, so it is indeed Syndra support.
So we'll get to see that Syndra versus Malzahar support matchup. Going to be definitely a point of interest in this game. We also do get to see Corki mid once again. And Linderong on something that is not Poppy. And Poppy not being banned, but both Huni and Linderong not playing Poppy, the two players that love to play Poppy.
Yep. And it's a little bit surprising to actually see that ROX didn't opt for a Poppy pick because they have so many fragile champions that do require peel. And what this is basically saying that is, if the ROX Tigers team composition gets ahead, it's really, really difficult for SKTs to resist against the amount of poke that ROX has, but they also have a lot of pick inside of the Syndra Stun and the Elise Cocoon. And so this game is going to be decided by the mid game.
Yeah. Definitely will be. So guys, we are finally ready to go into game number 1 of the night here between SKT and the ROX Tigers. Let's jump into it right now. So here we go. The fans were a little bit late on the cheer, but they finally snuck that one out. Maybe they had fallen asleep based on that delay. But as I said before, we are finally ready to get started here in this game. And looking at the Tigers comp once again, they don't really have this big tank in the top lane that we've been seeing quite often. Do you think Elise is just going to have to go very tanky build here in order to fill that role for the ROX Tigers?
Yeah, I think that Seonghwan's build should probably be a tanky variation. It doesn't necessarily need to be full tank. The later that this game does go, Linderong should just be able to roll over Huni. Once Fiora does get to her third, fourth item, I don't feel like Huni's going to be able to resist that too much. But I feel like the build-up to the mid-game is going to be the most crucial part of this game. Because if ROX gets ahead, I don't know how SKTelecom is going to stabilize against that amount of poke and pick.
That really is the big question here for sure. So starting off the game, we do have SKT's side with Peanuts in the jungle going for the blue buff. And we do have ROX's side, Seonghwan, going for the red buff start.
And top laners headed up to top lane right now. And in bottom lane, it's going to be interesting to see how this Syndra pick does, because that's the big question right now.
Yeah, you can see right from the get-go being a bit aggressive with those Qs, wanting to get a lot of damage done early on. It does have that long range, so definitely a good idea to go for something like that. And we're still getting a big view of the mid lane at the same time. You see Mickey trying to trade in here with Faker.
Mickey taking the brunt of that trade, but that's okay because he has Corrupting Potion. And we're going to have to see what Peanut does after getting level 3, because Seonghwan is electing for a 4-camp clear. Peanut still hasn't cleared his 3rd camp. He does have it now. Huni in top lane, a little dangerous.
Huni, yeah, taking a lot of damage there from Linderong right from the get-go. You were talking about maybe 3 or 4 items into the game, but here already at level 2, Linderong being able to take some good trades already.
Yep. A lot of trade up top. Peanut now taking the Scuttle Crab. Has the option to go mid lane or top lane as Seonghwan makes his way over to his Wraith camp. Seonghwan might just eat his Wraith camp. Peanut looking to make something happen up in top, and if he could do that, it would take a lot of pressure off top lane, because that would probably mean that Huni would be able to recall into a Bomby's Cinder before having to teleport back to lane if they could get a kill.
Faker trying to turn around here. Mickey eating a ton of damage, and Faker is not going to commit to that one, but Mickey will be forced out of the lane and forced to recall.
Definitely not something that Mickey wanted to have happen. This is right around the time where if he could have made Faker recall, it still wouldn't have been that bad for Faker, as he's just going to purchase the Tear of the Goddess. Faker not yet at the gold value, though, to get that. Definitely wants to sustain in the lane, as currently he would only be able to afford around Sapphire Crystal. So I think that was Mickey's intention.
Yeah, very true, as you often like to do against Rise too. Look at that poke from Key, from that Syndra. You can see the Dark Sphere comes out into the Scatter of the Weak. You do a ton of damage, and the stun follow-up, which makes the easy volley for Ashe to do a ton of damage to whoever does get stunned.
Lots of poke, actually, from this Syndra pick, and it seems to be doing quite well. Bang and Wolf don't seem to have that much experience playing against it, at least so far, but they are managing to keep up in the CS score, so not a very big deficit there. Meanwhile, though, in top lane, Huni is already down a little bit over a wave. It's not the end of the world, but Linderong still hasn't recalled yet. Maybe trying to just sustain into a Tiamat.
Got a miss there. Oh, actually, the Sphere does miss, and here comes Wolf onto Key. Tons, well, not tons, just a bit of damage going on to Key, just a small trade here. Here comes Seonghwan into the jungle of SKT, and there were actually no wards to spot him at all, but just does put in a couple of very deep wards to see where Peanut is once he does enter that red side jungle. And SKT, unless they're very carefully keeping track of where Elise is in terms of her routes, they're not going to have a great idea of where those wards are.
Yeah. And right now, Seonghwan going to be able to just pick up his Grom, pick up his Wolves, and it doesn't really look like Peanut has anywhere to go. Linderong did just come back to top lane via a teleport, and so Peanut might want to move over to the left-hand side of the map and try to make something happen, which that could cause a very big problem for ROX, but it seems like Peanut has intentions to head over to his right side jungle, so not a lot of proactivity coming out from SKTelecom, which not something I would have expected, especially considering it's Peanut.
Look at this, Faker doing a ton of poke damage onto Mickey with his lane pushing in here, just wanting to try to force Mickey out of the lane. Here comes Elise, and now actually the lane is going to meet right in the middle, so not going to push too far forward for Faker, but there's the flash and the ultimate. First blood going over to Faker, immediately does cleanse. And wow, Mickey was just not expecting that level 6 spike.
Yeah, Mickey totally underestimated the amount of damage Faker could dish out right there. And that was a very easy first blood going over to SKT, and it wasted a lot of Seonghwan's time having to stay around in mid lane. He is going to pick up the minion wave that Mickey's unable to eat, but mid just got flipped on its head. And you can see the mechanics from Faker there with Cassiopeia's ultimate cleansing away so Seonghwan couldn't get on top of him.
Did you see how fast, because he flashed, ulted so fast, the animation actually showed behind Faker? Yep. Because he did it so fast. He pressed those 2 buttons so fast that it actually bugged out the game just a little bit. Here comes Seonghwan doing a little bit of an invade onto Peanut. He can easily leap over the wall after getting that Grom, but this blue is in contention here.
And this is really big for the ROX Tigers, able to take away this blue buff from Faker. Will create a lot of pressure relief in mid lane. They're actually going to hand it over to Mickey. This is really good.
Yeah, very nice. So we're going to see a ton of poke coming down there in the mid lane. And uh-oh, the stun coming down onto Wolf as well as the exhaust. He will be able to get him away just barely. Even turning around for a silence as well, that Call to Void. And now the poke damage coming out of Varus, making Kiwi very low. And both of these supports very low in the bot lane. Neither jungle all too near. You do see Kha'Zix. Peanut there is getting closer, but doesn't show any signs of coming down bot just yet. So
not coming down bottom just yet. It's also important to note that Songyun was able to hold his heal, whereas Bang had to use his. So they still have that available to them. Songyun does have level 6, but he doesn't have the mana to cast his Enchanted Crystal Arrow as Ki starts his recall. Ki also has level 6 now.
And are we going to see some more outplays from Faker? That's the question. Maybe he just gets his own blue buff back by killing Mickey. Generally, when you are going up against a Corki, it's very hard to get any ganks onto him just because of that Valkyrie. But if you can just surprise him with the ultimate out of Cassiopeia, then that's another way to get a kill.
Meanwhile, up in top lane, Huni doing a pretty good job in the CS department. However, Linderong does have that call, recognizes that he's in command, basically, of the lane, and he's going to reward himself with the call turn in later on down the line. So far, Elise going the supportive route actually opted into the green smite, whereas Peanut, you can see he went for the red smite. Definitely looking to probably get aggressive coming into the mid game as it transitions. They're going to hand over the second blue buff to Mickey as well, so he's basically permanently hat blue, and that's actually why the CS lead in mid hasn't widened even further, and that's partially because Mickey can just constantly keep spending his mana in order to get the farm that he needs. Otherwise, Faker would just be able to zone him out.
Exactly. So doing a good job there. And you can see a lot of movement around that Infernal Drake. That is the first Drake of the game, as it's a very nice Drake for both of these teams. But just some wards being placed for now. You can see Sungwon coming in, trying to clear up some of that vision. Going to grab the Scuttle Crab as well, but look at this. No real vision except for the Tri-Brush, and here comes Peanut, the Chain of Corruption, as well as the Nether coming in, and just not enough damage. He is going to be able to flash away. And here comes Sungwon on the counter gank, but not going to commit.
Not going to commit, so Sungwon just came down in case SKTelecom wanted to try to take that a little bit further, but the turnaround from ROX, I think that SKTelecom wasn't expecting that much damage, and Peanut not quite able to close the gap in time so he could dish out the damage. Meanwhile, in mid though, Faker trying to put Mickey under a lot of pressure in the event that ROX Tigers would try to start an Inferno Drake. That way Faker would be able to get down to the dragon and zone Mickey off so that they could turn the tides.
It's kind of cute spawning that Voiling in there, getting a bit of damage onto Elise. And just spotting it just to make sure that nothing's going on, as they do not have a ward around there. You can see on the mini-map there's about 4 wards there for ROX around the Drake, so they do have a lot of vision around there. And here comes Huni back up top with the teleport. He's now evened up that CS score, 86 to 84, but you do see there's a wave pushing into Linderong. At least it is decently even for now.
Is even indeed, and I feel like as the early game transitions into the mid game, ROX haven't really gotten the lead that I feel like their team comp would need to go up against SKTelecom's in the mid game. So I feel like when we do have the first Inferno Drake fight, if it's going to be a team fight, it's probably going to end up going over to SKTelecom.
Especially because generally they're better at getting into engagements that they know they can win. They generally don't overstep their boundaries. They're very smart with the way they engage. Here comes Faker once again. You can see that Mickey, every time he just gets poisoned, he just Valkyries away. He doesn't even, he knows he can't take the trade after being poisoned if Cassiopeia is close enough. So he's just forced back, forced to farm at a distance. That's about it. Here comes Peanut down into the bot lane once again. Let's see if he can set up something. There is a control ward in this bot brush. If he can clear that one up, we could see Kha'Zix join in here for another bot lane gank.
Not sure if Songyun's Hawkshot actually spotted Peanut just there, but he did turn around and head back to his Golem camp. And meanwhile, we're having a very passive early game, but as I mentioned, this doesn't benefit the Tigers as much as it does SKTelecom. Songhwan needs to make something happen soon. Mickey recalling right now, so the CS gap in mid will increase a little bit, and you see the ping going down onto Faker's blue buff, so gonna hand over that blue to Faker right after he shoves in mid wave.
Here comes Linderong again. Just spanks the Cuddle Crab and walks away. But is not going to go into that blue buff as he does not have Songwon or Mickey anywhere near this time around. Look at that very aggressive control ward out of Key this time. Wants to begin pushing in. Wolf is going to try to contest that, but this is part of the reason. Here comes Mickey and Songwon, but they walk right over a ward. And I think they can tell because of the movements of that bot lane that Mickey was spotted. So he just goes back to mid. Oh, there's the Chain of Corruption coming on in, and huge amount of damage down goes that Syndra. Sangyu now is exhausted. One more hit will do it, and that is going to be it. A double kill for Varus in the bot lane.
Double kill for SKT at this point is so bad for the ROX Tigers. Mickey, he has the package. I don't think he's going to be able to use it. They're going to look for a cheese here onto Faker. But if Faker reacts quick enough, this shouldn't work.
He does get the stun on someone. He's just going to turn, and that's going to be it for Elise. Now he wants more blood, trying to go for Mickey. He does lose the poison. Missed the poison, rather, but here he comes once again. Very aggressive coming in. Is going to cleanse the exhaust. Does miss another poison, so is forced to back off from here. Had he landed that last poison, I think he could have ended Mickey's life.
Yeah, he definitely could have, and that was an excellent turnaround by Faker. And now SKTelecom going to capitalize on this opportunity with Sungwon being dead to capture the Inferno Drake. And this is how some of SKTelecom's games have gone, is everything goes very slow, and then all of a sudden it's just one giant explosion where they just get so far ahead of you.
Yeah. And you know what it is, too? It's not that SKT is doing these crazy, incredible plays. I think they're just capitalizing on the mistakes of ROX. So you could see the bot lane getting just too close to the turret. Just a bit of poke. We're not going to get a look at that, but they do get double-killed bot. And then this happens to Faker, and they don't respect the stun out of Cassiopeia. You see Elise running right at him, and look at how much damage he does at this point of the game.
And interestingly enough, Mickey didn't cast the exhaust right away, which is a little bit surprising. He must have known that Faker, yes, he can react with the cleanse. But even still, they greatly underestimated Faker's damage output right there and paid for it.
You do see Abyssal Scepter already built here on Faker, so off to a very fast start here. Just 15 minutes into the game, is building up that tier. Already 1,000 gold ahead of Corki, of Mickey on the other side of the rift. Here comes Songwon trying to make something work again. He's kind of angled bot a couple of times, wasn't successful. Now he's up top. You can see Huni trying to just keep the lane here, but here comes Elise just running down the lane. They want to jump in onto Huni, but just not close enough, and Sungwon's just going to come up and not do much.
A lot of Sungwon's ganks that he's attempted this game have been extremely forceful, and when you're trying to coordinate a gank with your jungler, you need to make sure that you're keeping the wave in a position where they can get the gap closed, and they can close the gap and get on top of your opponent so that they're able to help you. But so far, the way that ROX has played out their top and bottom lane, they haven't really been able to do that. And then in mid lane, Mickey from the get-go has been constantly at a disadvantage against Faker.
You can see First Blood Turret also going over to SKT with Bang down on the bot lane, able to clear that one up. And just getting further and further ahead. Now 2,000 gold ahead. They have the Infernal Drake. And now trying to set up something in the blue side jungle of the ROX Tigers. Perhaps a dive onto Mickey, or just waiting for Elise to jump into the jungle. But they will be spotted and will have to back off.
Now with bottom turret being gone, we might look to see Huni just finish eating this wave in top lane and then make his way down to the bottom, as the bot lane will now head top to try to take down the top tier 1 turret. And what that's going to do is it's going to let Faker continue to stay in mid lane and continuously just farm up. You don't want to waste his blue buff. You don't want to send your bottom lane to mid right now and then just have an inefficient duration on the blue. Just let him go up against Mickey, let him ride out his lead, and just send your bottom lane top.
And you can see Linderong does spot Peanut in the jungle, will spot Wolf here too, so they do know this rotation is happening, and they're going to send a bunch of members down bottom here too. You see Elise dealing with the Scuttle Crab. Maybe they do want to push that bottom turret. Maokai is not going to get there just yet, so...
Not going to get there, and Huni wisely just backs away from the turret, starts eating his golems, and the reason that Sungwon was here was because if Maokai makes the mistake of just walking and hugging the very bottom of the map to get to the turret, they can just dive him with 3 members. And Huni, obviously recognizing that, knowing it's a possibility, intelligently just backs off and eats the golem camp.
Yeah, getting gold while he can, doesn't need to be in that lane. He's not going to save it anyway. And look at this push up and top. There's nothing to stop them here. You can see Linderong can't go 1v2 right now.
Yep.
Going to do a nice bit of damage there. Just continue pushing in.
This is an excellent punish by SKTelecom for Seonghwan being on the bottom half of the map, and this is why it was a little bit of a gamble for Seonghwan to go down there, because if they don't capitalize on Huni's mispositioning, if he makes it, then what ends up happening is you have nothing else to get down there. There's no way that you can stay around to get the red buff away from Peanut. There's no dragon. There's no incentive to be on that part of the map, and so SKTelecom, they recognize that, and they said, hey, we're going to do a little bit of damage to your top tier 2 as well.
So where does ROX go from here? You could see Ashe and Cinder are up top now, and Fiora has gone down bottom lane to match Maokai. Still only on about 1.5 items here with the Black Cleaver and the Tiamat. Uh-oh, big package coming on in. Nice dots there on the stun onto Faker, but an instant cleanse, and there's Wolf with the Nether Grasp onto Corki to pick up that kill. And now the rest of ROX Tigers on the run. Can Bank pick up another one? So much damage coming out. One more hit will do it. That's going to be it for Syndra. Elise is going to try to flash out. Nice cocoon. Will escape with her life, but another 2-0 for SKT.
Yeah, another 2-0, and now SKTelecom, there's going to be no contest in mid, and Songyun being the only member left to defend, they might even have to give up their mid 2 turret here. Huni doesn't have teleport, so he can't teleport back to a ward and try to flank Songyun, but nonetheless, ROX just greatly underestimating what SKT can do, and they're paying for it dearly.
Yeah, I feel like they're just letting the game get away from them here. They lost the early game, a couple of crucial mistakes, an outplay from Faker against Mickey, and now they're just falling so far behind. Linderong is not given enough time to really get enough items to be much of anything in this game just yet. He's just kind of been farming the entire time, just at 0-0-0. There is the Eternal Crystal Arrow onto Faker and the stun out of Syndra. They should be able to get Faker here, and that they do. Nice pickup there for the ROX Tigers.
Very nice pickup indeed. Not quite sure if, wow, they are. They're going to go for a Baron attempt here. Huni doesn't have teleport. He's running up from bottom. Very risky attempt, but it's a gamble that they need to make if they want to stay in this game.
And they might be able to get this here. Let's see if Peanut can come in here and get the smite. Is he going to be able to? And he does! Unbelievable out of Peanut. He gets the Baron away. And look at the rest of ROX Tigers. Bang just trying to get on top of them. Just going to do a ton of damage here. Is forced to flash away, but here comes Huni for the pickup. We do see someone trying to get onto Wolfie. Will pick up that kill. Down goes Key, though, on the opposite side of things. Mickey will escape here, rather, and Huni is still on the chase. Let's see if he can get onto Mickey.
Mickey has to be really careful. Seonghwan canceled his recall
to go for the cocoon, and it's not really going to help. No Valkyrie for now, and Mickey is also going to go down. So the Baron and 4 kills. Oh, we're not done there. Could be 5. No, the cocoon.
Not done yet, and I think the reason that Huni is doing this is because Faker is handing off the wave into Huni, who still has the Baron buff. So now the wave's not going to be as delayed as it comes up to top lane. Huni's going to be able to stay here. They don't need him for Infernal Drake. So take another look at this replay. So they killed Faker, and they tried to go for a gamble. If they can get this Baron, they might have a chance still in this game. But it's such a deficit right now, they have to do it. And when they did, Peanut able to get the steal, and that's basically the nail in the coffin, because now they have to concede Infernal Drake after this. You can see Huni arrives to the fight, and he's able to clean up the remaining members and keep the Baron buff. But now they have to give up the second Infernal Drake of the game. They're down on turrets. They're down on CS score everywhere. And what do you really do now if you're the Tigers? The composition that you chose to draft was never really able to get into a situation where you could just blitz down your opponent. And the composition, as we reach the mid-game, we talked about this, it doesn't really have it doesn't have a leg to stand on unless it was able to accelerate ahead of SKTs, and that just wasn't the case.
Yeah, look at this, a trade from Huni. We get to see the tail end of that fight. Maybe Linderong just getting a bit desperate, trying to make something happen. But he does get 1v1, solo kill going over to Huni. who is now 3-0-0. And Peanut, you know, he didn't want to be outshone by his two older brothers, Faker and Huni. He does get the Baron steal, but still have to hand it over to Faker and Huni as well in this game. Just absolutely dominant throughout the entirety of it.
Yep. Now they're pushing on to the bottom turret. Not quite going to get it on this wave, but meanwhile in top lane, Huni escorting a wave into the top tier 2 turret, and there's going to be no answer for that from ROX. They might use Linderong's teleport to it so that it doesn't take as much damage, but even that I feel won't be too good of a decision.
Looks like
SKTelecom backs off though.
Yeah, they're just going to back off, and Linderong is just going to walk on up there.
We can take another look at this replay, and not quite sure what Linderong was thinking. Huni able to get that root with the twisting advance right into turret range. Linderong just going down, and that's a point where they couldn't afford to have Linderong go down.
Yeah, it's, as I said before, it looked a little bit like desperation, where it's, when you're going up against Maokai underneath the turret, it's almost like he overestimated how tanky he was, which is not tanky at all on this Fiora. He cannot eat those tower shots. And even the Q out of Maokai does a bit of damage, so had to be so careful with that. Just a small mistake, but will get SKT even farther ahead as they secure now a 7,000 gold lead. And Huni is still pushing top with this Baron.
To make matters worse for the Tigers, I really like how Bang already has that Quicksilver Sash, taking away the ability for Ki or Songyun to try to stun him, or even Seonghwan to hit him with Cocoon and then try to remove him from a fight, because he is crucial in SKTelecom being able to poke their way into ROX Tigers' base.
Yeah, the amount of damage he does from behind as well is quite astonishing when you do look at it. He was almost able to clean up the entirety of ROX's team at that Baron by himself, and will be key in the coming fights. And here comes SKT looking to push down another turret. They do have 2 Inferno Drakes, by the way, so that's a nice little stack for them as well. Do pick up the second turret here in the top lane. It looks like they will back off from here.
Linderong in bottom lane, he does have the teleport available. He can still shred turrets quite quickly. Huni gonna get to bottom, be able to meet the wave there. Linderong he's not yet at a point where he can just keep dancing underneath turrets against the Maokai and just eventually overpower him. They don't have that option available to them, and so it's still a waiting game for the Tigers. They need to just keep trying to scale up. Next dragon of the game is an Ocean Drake.
Not really a big deal at this point in time, but should be the next one. You always talk about potentially delaying that Drake so that the next one is an Elder Drake, especially with Baron coming up in 2 minutes. So we'll see if SKT wants to make that work.
Would be very interesting if SKTelecom recognizes the position and lead that they're in and do intentionally delay the capture of that Drake, just so they know, hey, we already have 2 Infernal Drakes. We don't need to try to RNG a third one or RNG a Mountain. We can just wait to capture this, and then we're guaranteed the Elder, and then you have to respond to an Elder Drake push as well.
You can see Linderong is hanging around this time. He's not near any turrets, so he should be okay for now. I'm just going to be 1v1ing in that lane. Both Linderong and Huni still have their teleports up, so keep in mind that that is an option for if a fight does occur sometime soon in this game. Look at the amount of vision that's been taken away from this jungle by SKT for the Tigers, and Tigers respecting that a lot. They're not going anywhere near that jungle. They know how far they are behind. They just have to play the turtle game.
Oh, a lot of damage going on to that turret right there. Bang does have the red buff as well, and the turret's opened up.
Yeah, even without any minions, just able to do that last bit of damage, and not the best wave clear out of the ROX Tigers either. Another missed stun there from Ki, and it looks like this mid inhibitor is going to go down as the first inhibitor of the game. And Baker trying to do a bit of damage here to Mickey, but we'll just back off for now.
And I really like how slow and steady that they're taking this. They know that Baron's coming up in 30 seconds. They're just stealing the last bits of Seonghwan's jungle.
That enchanted crystal arrow right through the goalpost. Uh-oh. Peanut's in a bit of trouble. Linderong is not going to engage here, though. And look at Faker on the right side all alone. You can see someone already taking a ton of damage. He will get cocooned, but now look at Bang on the left side. One more hit will do it. Kha'Zix does even that up 1 for 1. And here's Faker. Wants to kill everybody on this team, and he's not going to be able to get many. Just one. Only the Ash.
Oh.
Oh, actually does get the at least 2 there with the poison. Nicely done. Does get the 2 for 1.
Does get the 2 for 1 indeed. Meanwhile, in top lane, there's a giant wave Linderong recalling to go and pick that up. And SKT, I don't think they'll go for a 3-man. Oh, they will. It looks like they actually do just want to go for a 3-man Baron. A lot of the damage is going to be reliant on Peanut, but take a look at this replay. Peanut using his ultimate to get away from Linderong, hops over the wall. Meanwhile, Faker on the outskirts. They really wanted to end the game here, potentially, if ROX messed up. See Mickey Valkyrieing forward, able to get the kill onto Bang, but Peanut was right there to finish him up. And then Faker able to go into the backline of the Tigers, and then you can see the poison ticks and ends up getting Seonghwan.
As he's dying, he does get that. Hold that thought. Here comes Key trying to get the steal onto Baron. Not going to happen. So SKT does pick up the second Baron of the game here, this time with no hopes of a steal. And, well, that 14-6 and already a 12,000 gold lead here for SKT. They will be looking to make their final pushes in just a few minutes.
Yep, and Baron buff on all of the members. Took a little while to get the Baron. They didn't quite have the champions up that they ideally would have had to secure it, but they get it nonetheless. Now they're going to pick up this Ocean Drake, and does he wait? Well, next Dragon of the game,
Will be that Elder Drake, so we'll have that as an option. Here comes Linderong, trying to go for that trade here. Can he get that Grand Challenge proc? No, look at the amount of damage just coming out from the Baron boosted minions. Is going to lunge away and get away with his life with the help of the Cocoon. But here comes Peanut, ulting in, and is going to leap in, and the W just barely not going to be able to pick up that kill. In the meantime, though, as that is going 2v2 up in top lane, 3 members of SKT pushing in the bottom lane are going to get the turret and the inhibitor. Now that's 2 turrets and 2 inhibitors in the space.
Yep. 2 inhibitors down. The mid one will come up shortly, but still, ROX Tigers, they're not out of the woods yet. They have to still sustain against SKTelecom's top push. Bang still has a lot of mana available to him, so the poke is going to be quite difficult for ROX to find a way to live through.
See what they try to do here. You can see even down to the last bush, SKT is giving no vision. Only these 2 wards. No, not even those 2 wards. Those are going to be denied too. Not really going to matter here, though, as SKT is pushing in as 5 is going to take out that 3rd tower here. 3rd inhibitor tower. There does go the inhibitor. And ROX, just with their tail between their legs, kind of just waiting it out. They're not able to save any of these inhibitors.
3 inhibitors down, so now 7v5 is enabled. 2 super minions spawning from each lane. And with Baron to top it off, we might just see the end of the game here in a moment.
Yeah, you can see the zoning from Faker. He's like, yeah, I dare you to come try to fight me right now. Me and the rest of my homies. Really just too strong at this time. And we'll just wait until the other waves do come in. And there's the super minion in the front. Bit more poke from Bang. And some poking going down onto these turrets. And Mickey trying to make something happen on the right side. Not going to be able to. Just desperately fighting against these Baron minions. Going to take down the second Nexus turret. Finally an arrow coming in. Huni says, what did you say? I'm going to kill you instead. Down goes Ash. Down goes Linderong. And down goes the ROX Tigers in game number 1 as SKT takes game number 1.
And what a way to take game number 1. Everything was really going super slow and steady. And then all of a sudden it just got completely out of control. And Faker's almost solo kill super early on against Mickey. And then later on, the turnaround also onto Seonghwan and Mickey. Absolutely fantastic. Bang and Wolf able to get the 2v2 down in bottom lane. Timing their spells correctly, timing everything just perfectly down there. And Seonghwan wasn't able to really make anything happen. You could see he was constantly just running around the map and he couldn't find an opening against SKTelecom, and Huni always backing off at the correct points made it really difficult for the ROX Tigers to find any crack in SKT's armor.
Faker looking stoic as ever. Just another game here in LCK on that Cassiopeia, really putting on another show for us tonight. Doing quite well. ROX, they're going to have to come out with another wonky strategy if they want to try to take out SKT here. Peanut could be the MVP, I suppose, with that Baron steal. If ROX is able to cheese that away, could have changed the way the game went. But guys, we are going to go to the analyst desk in just a few minutes, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.